Big shkoyach. All right, happy Hanukkah, Parshas Miketz. So, famous question. Everyone asks this question. It says, "Vayhi Miketz Nasayim Yomimu Pharaoh Cholem," and it was at the end of 2 years, and Pharaoh was dreaming. What do you mean it was at the end of 2 years? Well, Yosef got tagged on an extra 2 years, an extra Shnasayim in prison. Why? Because he said to the Saramashkim, "Ki im iskartani el Paro." Because mention me to Pharaoh, and he said it twice. He said, mention me twice. So boom, he gets dinged 1 year for each time he said, mention me, and now the 2 years are over. And everyone wants to know, like, I don't understand. He's doing ishtadlus. Like, they teach you in yeshiva that you shouldn't just sit there, like, waiting for the miracle to come and saying Tehillim. It doesn't work that way. You have to get up. You have to do something. You have to take massive action, Tony Robbins style. And this is what he did. So why is he dinged for that? It's a very good question. So let's just point out the dates, like the chronology of this story. When does Pharaoh have the dream? Pharaoh has the dream on his birthday. He has it on his birthday. How do we know that? Because it says Miketz Shnasayim Yomim. That means exactly Shnasayim Yomim, at the edge of Shnasayim Yomim. When was the last time we spoke? Yom Hu Ledes Es Paro. It was his birthday. And on his birthday, he had this whole big shtick where he took the Sar Hamashkim and he put him back Yeshiva al Kano, and then he hanged the Sar Ha'ofim. So let's understand what would have happened had Yosef said nothing. 3 days before the birthday, Sar Hamashkim, Sar Ha'ofim, the butler and the baker have a dream. Yosef sees them. He's like, hey guys, what's up? They tell him what's up. We had this dream. We don't know what's happening. He explains their dream to them and says nothing. 3 days later, it's the party. Pharaoh would have had a dream that night. He would have woken up at his massive birthday party freaking out because oh my gosh, what does this dream mean? And that's the day that the Sar Mashkim would have been like, well, excuse me, Your Majesty, it just so happens that I'm here because my dream got interpreted. There's this guy, Yosef, bang, and he's there. Instead, Yosef says, hey man, you have to mention me to Pharaoh. Well, if you have to mention me to Pharaoh, then it's not because God is pulling the strings and everything is just lining up perfectly. It's because you put your thumb on the scale. So now I have to wait and kick the ball down the road another 2 years so that you could be good and forgotten as far as Yosef is concerned. Now, Daniel actually asked me this question on Shabbos. Why does it say, V'lo zachar Sar Mashkim es Yosef vayishkachehu? The Sar Mashkim didn't remember Yosef and he forgot him. He didn't remember him and he forgot him? What's the difference between not remember and forgot? The difference is, did not remember him means he didn't mention him. V'lo zachar Sar Mashkim es Yosef, he didn't mention him. Then, only subsequently, vayishkachehu, then he forgot about him. Obviously, 3 days later, he did not forget about Yosef. The dream came true, everything is sababa. He knew plenty good who Yosef was. So he didn't mention him, and then later on, obviously, as the time goes, he forgets. So, Pharaoh wakes up in the morning, and he's freaking out. Vayhi ba'boker vatipoem rucho. Vatipoem is a lashon of pa'amon, which means bing, 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 bing. There are alarm bells going off in his brain. There are alarm bells. Why? You never had a bad dream before? What's the big deal? Well, you know when the dream that you had is just a dream and it's no biggie, and when you wake up in the morning and you're severely rocked by what just happened in your dream, you know the difference. The reason you know the difference is because it's your psychology that's talking to you. It's literally your mind. It's your brain. So now go back for a moment to the dream of the Sar Mashkim and the Sar Ofim. It says that each one dreams the same dream, Ish kechalomo pasar, which means they dreamt their dream and the interpretation of the other guy's dream. They dreamed their dream and the interpretation of the other guy's dream. Why? Why does it work that way? The reason why it works that way is because my psychology and my problems and the things that I don't understand about me, that's only a me thing. When I look at you, it's very clear what's happening to you. So of course the Sar Mashkim sees what happens to the Sar Ofim, and the Sar Ofim sees what happens to the Sar Mashkim. But when it comes to their mind telling them what happens to them, they can't interpret it. So now let's understand why the Sar Mashkim talks first, and only after the Sar Ofim. What did the Sar Mashkim see? The death of the Sar Ha'ofim. He talks first because he's freaking out, because he doesn't know what happened to him, but he just saw his compatriot die. So he says, oh my gosh, I'm in my dream. When I say, and I squeeze the juices into the cup of Pharaoh, like, does that mean that he's going to go mountain style on me and, like, pop the head in the middle of the red wedding? Like, is that how it goes? Or does it mean that I'm actually giving him a cup? Which one? It can go either way. So the Sar Ha'ofim doesn't pipe up and say anything. Why not? Well, what does he see? He sees the Sar Hamashkim goes free, and he sees the face of the Sar Hamashkim. The face of the Sar Mashkim is horrified when he sees me. I don't want to say anything. Then Vayar Sar Ha'ofim Kitov Pasar. The Sar Ha'ofim sees that he interpreted well. But it doesn't only mean that he interpreted well, it's also kitov basar. He interpreted good. And we know, as the Gemara says, Kol hachalomos holchem achar peh. So when he hears that he interpreted good for the Sar Mashkim, he pipes up, Afani b'chalomi, oh, I'm also in my dream. Very obnoxious, by the way that he says it. He doesn't say, oh, I had a dream and here's what it is. No. He's like, oh, and I also was in the dream. And in fact, the Gemara says that there are 4 people that started off their words with af. Of course, the word af can mean even, but it also means anger. So we find it by him, we find it by Haman, and we find it by, oh, good. Excellent by the Nachash. And do you know the last one? Korach by Dasan Aviram. And all of them, of course, die horribly. They all die horribly. Okay, but you see, so Paro has this same kind of dream that rocks him. And he calls everybody because he knows it's really important. And Ein Poserosam li Paro. It's not Ein Poserosam. It's Ein Poserosam li Paro. Nobody can give Paro an understanding of what he thinks is actually happening. So then, the guy pipes up and he goes, oh, it's Chatoy, ani maskir hayom. I remember my problem today. A couple years ago, Paro katzaf al avadav, and if you listen carefully to his words, they're very, very beautiful, meduyik, because he says, oh, Paro katzaf al avadav, vayiteno si b'mishmar beisar tabachim, osi ve'isar ha'ofim, which means Paro got angry at his dudes, and he put me in the jail, me and the baker. You already said you. So just say he put me in the jail and the baker. But he doesn't want to draw any parallel between him and the baker. So he says he put me in the jail. Me and the baker, not to be confused with me and the baker. Now the Targum Yonasan understands, why does Paro kill the baker and not the butler? Because there was a conspiracy to kill Paro. They were going to purple wedding him. They were going to poison his food, which is why they went. But they didn't know, does the Sar know about it? Or is it just the little underling that actually brings the food? So he understands that the Sar Ha'ofim was part of it, and that's why he dies. He was a literal traitor. By the way, how does he know that from the pasuk? Because it says that Chatu Mashkei HaMelech V'Ha'ofeh LaAdonihem LeMelech Mitzrayim. That's how you know. It says that they sinned to their master, the king of Egypt. The idea is not that they sinned because there was a fly in the juice or there was a rock in the food. It's much bigger than that. They literally were planning on killing him. So that's why he executes the Sar Ha'ofim. Okay.
They were both planning on killing him.
They weren't. He didn't know if it was just the underlings or if it rose to the level of the people on top of them.
But the pasuk references them both.
Oh, that's why he puts them both in the jail to find out, to do an investigation, to see who's responsible and who's not. The Sar Mashkim was not, and therefore he walks. The Sar Ha'ofim was, and therefore he dies.
But that's the pasuk you're quoting that we know that he did it.
That's the pasuk that's the original pasuk when they're put there.
So what's the pasuk?
So the pasuk, because he kills him. So why does he kill him? He kills him because it was found to be that he actually was part of it. But then the Sar Mashkim later on, 2 years later, says, I'm not going to say me and him in the same sentence because he's literally a traitor. He's a treacherous, awful human being, which is why he dies. Okay, so now let's listen very carefully to the dream of Paro. Something crazy happens. He has the dream. Yosef comes, interprets the dream. Says there's going to be a famine. Okay, there's going to be a famine. Great. What do you do in a famine? Well, you're going to have 7 years of bumper crop before you have a famine, so it's not that big a deal. You have to, get involved in these bonds, right? It's safe over here. You invest in gold, get a little Bitcoin, whatever. Listen, I'm not the guy to tell you how to save your money, but the point is, crop rotation, right? So you put the crops in the silo, and then you have pizza when there's no pizza. It's not rocket science. And Paro is so impressed by this guy. Paro's like, wow, I'm going to make you the king of Egypt. Why? Why am I making, why? You're not that impressive. Now, if you said to me that he was going to make him the chief dream interpreter, that's very appropriate. That's very appropriate. This guy should be in charge of all dreams in this country. He's amazing. You've never seen anybody like him. Okay, chief psychologist, chief dream guy, he's Jung, right? He's basically Jung. Why would you make him the viceroy? Furthermore, he sees there's going to be a famine. Tell me something. You interpret Paro's dream. You have the chutzpah to tell Paro what to do now? Once again, very simple question. Paro should not have made Yosef the viceroy of Egypt. He should have made him the chief dream interpreter. Maximum, minister of agriculture. Maximum. Secondly, Paro hired Yosef to do a job, which was to interpret the dream. When Yosef interprets Paro's dream and tells him, here's what's going to happen, there's 7 years of plenty and then there's 7 years of famine coming down the pike, I don't need you to tell me what I should do now. Thank you very much. I'm running the greatest administrative state that the world has ever seen up until that point and possibly since. I don't need you for that. So where does Yosef get off saying such a thing? And not only that, but he doubles down and says something that's such an incredible chutzpah. Like, literally, the idea, the gall of this man. He says, Va'ata yirei Paro ish navon v'chacham v'shiseyo al eretz Mitzrayim. And now, Paro should appoint a man who's brilliant, a genius, navon v'chacham, and put him over all of Egypt. Excuse me? You're saying that to the king of the... That's a very bad thing to say to Paro. That's a very unwise thing to say. He's going to kill you for saying something like that. Where does Yosef come up with that? Okay. So in order to answer those questions, we're going to have to take a much closer look at Paro's dream. And we're going to see that, in fact, there's the dream that Paro has, and then there's the way that Paro explains the dream to Yosef, because there's not the same. There are discrepancies in the dream. For example, it says when Paro actually has the dream, V'hinei min hayora lo sheva paros yefos mareh uvrios basar vatir'ena ba'achu. So he sees 7 cows come up out of the Nile, yefos mareh, they're beautiful of form, ubrios basar, and they're healthy of meat. That's not what Paro says. Paro says, brios basar v'yifos toar. So he switches the order and he uses a different term. He doesn't say yifos mareh, he says yifos toar. And he says brios basar before he says yifos toar anyway, which is very strange. Why does he do that? Furthermore, he says, vatavo el kirbena v'lo nodaki bo el kirbena. He says that when the skinny cows ate the fat cows, they swallowed them, but you couldn't tell that they swallowed them. Umari hen ra, kasher batchila v'ikatz. And their look was just as bad as when I finished. It didn't say that in his dream. It didn't say that. It's only when he relates the dream. He also says, lo ro'isi kahena b'chol eretz Mitzrayim lo ro'a. These bad cows, I have never seen their like at any point in my tenure. In all of Egypt, I've never seen such awful, awful cows. The difference between Paro's dream and the way that Paro relates his dream is how he feels about it. There's what he saw, and there's how he feels. So, of course, when he's relating the dream to Yosef, he's explaining how he feels. So he says to him, you know why he doesn't say Yefos Mar'eh? The difference between Yefos Mar'eh and Yefos Toar, it's beautiful. We know this from Parshas Vayetze. Because in Parshas Vayetze, it says that Rachel Haisa Yefas Toar v'Yefas Mar'eh. And over there, the Rishonim explain what's the difference. What's the difference? So because his dream was what he saw. So there's what he saw, and then there's how it makes him feel. Yeah. He may have. It doesn't record what he said to his interpreters. It only tells us that he rejected it. We don't have a record of how he said it to them. So the difference between Yefas Mar'eh and Yefas Toar, Yefas Mar'eh is the shape of your face. It's your features. So you could have someone with very, very nice coloring, but they have a nose like Elmo or with Toucan Sam, right? Like that's terrible. So yeah, you got this beautiful coloring and stuff. You've got great, but your features are off. I'm sorry. That's Mar'eh. Then there's Toar. Toar is the coloring of the face, the coloring of the features themselves. Major, major difference. So in terms of what Paro saw, what he saw was Yefos Mar'eh. But how he sees cows, let's talk for a moment about how Egyptians viewed cows. The Gemara says, Ein para v'chazir yotzei me'Alexandria shel Mitzrayim elim ken chotchen es ha'im shala, which means you can't get a cow or a pig out of Egypt unless they sterilize it and cut out the womb. Why? Because it was their major export. Their cows were so gorgeous, so beautiful, that they wouldn't let you buy them and then go breed them. That's their cows. By the way, just like spoiler alert, what's Yosef's sigil? A bull! Yosef is a bull. We know that one of the biggest gods of Egypt was the Apis bull. In fact, that's one of the reasons why the Egyptians ancestrally hate Cambyses. He's the son of Cyrus. We're way off topic. It doesn't matter. The point is, so when he sees Yefos Mar'eh, cows that are beautiful, for him, he's a rancher. So for him, it's about Yefos Toar. It's how they look. It's not their shape, it's how they look. Oh, a beautiful cow. Because he really sees a beautiful cow. And on the flip side, when it says these gnarled, nasty cows, he says, Lo reisi kahina b'chol eretz Mitzrayim lo roa. I've never seen such a terrible cow anywhere in Egypt. Because that's coming from inside of him. That's why, hence the deviation. Okay. So obviously, Yosef, he can't tell Paro what to do about his dream. It's incredibly foolish. And he never does anything of the sort. He interprets the dream. The dream was not to tell Paro that there's going to be 7 years of famine. The dream was to tell Pharaoh how to get out of the 7 years of famine. So when it says, like, if you're looking at this dream, what are you going to see? You're going to see these beautiful, beautiful 7 cows, and then these nasty cows, and the nasty cows cannibalize the beautiful cows. And it's like a horror show. It's the purge. No, it's not. It means that the skinny years will eat the fat years. It's the solution of the dream. The dream is telling Pharaoh that he has to take the fat years and feed them to the skinny years. It's literally what the dream is saying. So when he gets this crazy idea of saying, Va'ata, Yereh Paro ish navon v'chacham v'shiseo al eretz Mitzrayim. I think this is one of the 2 most difficult questions in the dream. The 2 most difficult questions in the dream. The first, as we've already said, how could he say that you should get a guy and put him over all of Egypt? And the second one is a seemingly innocuous phrase in the very beginning of the dream. It says, V'hinei sheva paros alos min hayaor, Yefos mara uvrios basar, vatir'ena ba'ahu. 7 beautiful cows come out of the Nile and they graze in a swamp. They what in a who? They graze in a swamp? What does that mean? Is that an operative and essential part of the dream, or is that just like, they graze in a swamp? Like, no, every word of the dream is like hella specific. So what is that referring to? That they graze in a swamp. Vatir'ena ba'achu. It's meaningless. Meaningless. So, I'll say pshat's like this. Pshat's like this. Pharaoh doesn't see 7 cows come up out of the river. That's not what he sees. That's not the beginning of the dream. In fact, the main character in the dream is not the 7 cows and it's not the 7 wheats. The main character in the dream is the Ye'or. It's the Nile. So it says, Miketz nasayim yamim, vayhi miketz nasayim yamim, ufaroch oleim, v'hinei omeid al hayaor. He's standing on the Nile. What is the Nile? Egypt. The Nile is Egypt. V'hinei min hayaor olo sheva paros. Okay, but that means that it's not that you see the Yaor. He didn't see the Yaor. Hine omeid al hayaor. He's standing on the Yaor, which means that he's overseeing all of the things that are happening, which is how Yosef knows in the dream that he can say to Paro, Va'ata yereh Paro ish novon v'chacham. Ya'aseh Paro v'yafkeid pikidim al haaretz. It all has to be tachas yad Paro. So he's saying from your vantage point in your dream, you saw that you were overseeing all the things that happen in the years. So that means that you're taking an active role in deciding who's going to be making sure that it works. That's how he knows that he can have the chutzpah to say, Va'ata yereh Paro ish novon v'chacham v'shiseo al eretz Mitzrayim. So now let's go a step weiter. Say, how can it be? How can it be that they're grazing in a swamp? What does that even mean that they're grazing in a swamp? And besides, what's the difference between the cows and the wheat? Why can't you just have cows or wheat? What's the difference between the cows and the wheat? You have 7 wheat comes out and 7 skinny wheat, and the skinny wheat eats the fat wheat, and I know there's going to be 7 good years and 7 skinny years. What's the difference between the wheat and the cows? The difference is not the same metaphor. Not the same. If they were the same, you would have the same dream twice. V'alishanos hachalom el paro is to show you that Hashem is doing this very, very quickly. By the way, just tangentially, because it's so beautiful. Because Yosef says to Paro, he says, V'alishanos hachalom el paro pa'amoyim ki nachon hadavar mi'im halokim u'memaher halokim lasoso. Pa'amoyim. The word pa'amoyim means 2. But the word pa'amoyim doesn't only mean 2. It also comes from the word bing, 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 bing. It's a bell, it's a pa'am, it's the bell. So he's saying the idea that you were belled in your mind is because it's happening right now, which is how he wakes up in the morning. He wakes up in the morning and his bell is ringing. His bell is ringing. Okay. So now, what's vatir'ena ba'achu? The difference between the cows on the one hand and the wheat on the other hand, when it's the exact same 7 years, the wheat is the produce. The cows are the people. The cows are the Egyptians. We just said before that the Yaor is Egypt. The cows are the Egyptians, which is why Yosef's sigil is the bull. And the wheat is what's happening with the produce of Egypt. So now let's go back to the beginning of the dream. So it says, V'hinei min hayor olo sheva paros yifos maro brios basar vatir'ena ba'achu. They graze in a swamp. What is a swamp? A swamp is when there's stuff growing out of the water. It's growing out of the water. So you see that what they're going to be consuming is Egypt. The Egyptians will be eating from Egypt together. Oh, so you're telling me that the solution for this is not to make sure that individuals have enough food, but rather to make sure that the country feeds the people. The country is going to have to feed the people, which means you're going to be dealing with bread lines. So now you understand that Pharaoh has a huge problem. Huge problem. I can stockpile all the food in the world, but what do you think is going to happen when the entirety of civilization has to line up every single morning to get their daily bread? It's going to have an utter breakdown of society. It's over. It's over. And in fact, it says, V'lo noda ki bo el kerbena, means that in the skinny years, no one's going to remember the good years. Even though they have food. They have food, so why don't they remember the good years? Because they're miserable. They're getting fed. They're getting their caloric intake, but it's awful. It's terrible. Mamish terrible. So now Pharaoh recognizes that he has a whole different challenge. It's not only how do I feed the people, can I do a crop rotation or not? It's how do I get the people to buy in to this vision of communism where we're all going to be putting the money into the state and the state's going to be feeding everybody. That's a huge challenge. So now Yosef says, you're going to need a guy who's going to understand the psychology of the people, which is why he doesn't say chacham v'navon. He says navon v'chacham. The difference between a navon and a chacham, the word navon means bina, hamevin davar mitoch davar. He can bring one thing out of another thing. A chacham is a person who's wise. It's a wise individual. Ordinarily, it's chacham v'navon. Here, it's navon v'chacham. Because here, yes, there's an administrative issue. There are administrative challenges of how exactly do you silo off the food. But the more impressive issue and the deeper issue is how you're going to deal with everyone's psychology. Which, of course, Pharaoh says, well, 1 second. Because nobody understands better than you what someone is thinking. After all, we see that Yosef was able to take from Pharaoh what his dream meant. How was he able to do that? Yosef he's Mr. Palm Reader. He knows how to crystal ball. Yosef understands you. He understands you. Therefore, let's go back for one moment to the Sar HaMashkim and the Sar HaOfim. We said before, the Sar HaMashkim sees what happens to the Sar HaOfim because he doesn't have any psychotic hang-ups about him. I don't have psychological hang-ups with him. I see exactly what happens to him. He gets hanged. But I can't see me. I can't see me because my psychology is talking to me in a way that I can't interpret it. Who can interpret it? Yosef. Yosef understands your mind better than you do, which is why he's the perfect guy to deal with this. And in fact, that's what Pharaoh does. So just as a very, very quick recap, now we understand why it says Vater ena ba'achu, that they graze in a swamp. More on that in a moment. Now we also understand why there's a difference between cows and wheat. Now we also understand why he has the chutzpah to say to Pharaoh. Mamash, the chutzpah to say to Pharaoh, oh, let me tell you what exactly it is that you have to do. I never asked you for a solution. You're right, it's not a solution. It's the interpretation of the dream. And Yeret Pharaoh ish navon v'chacham is literally in the dream, the hinei omed al hayor. That's how he knows. Okay. So now...
You keep mentioning Elohim, and you know that when he interpreted the dreams of the baker
and
the sommelier.
Yeah, the sommelier.
His whole thing was, God gave me the interpretation. When it comes to Pharaoh, he doesn't claim that.
He does. No, he says it's God, immediately.
He says it's God. So is Pharaoh not impressed that it's not, yes, I may be a
beautiful.
Woo-hoo. Getting it from God.
Yes. So let's go. Does that make him lower? Does that make him higher? What's the first thing Pharaoh says to Yosef? Mom is beautiful in the pasuk. So the pasuk says like this. Well, naturally we don't. Yeah. Serves me right. Serves me right. Pasuk says like this. Vayomer Paro el Yosef. And Paro says to Yosef, Chalom chalamti ufoser einoso. I dreamt a dream and there's no one to interpret it. Vani shamati alecha limor tishma chalom l'toroso. And I heard about you that you can interpret any dream. What does Yosef respond? No, not me. Not me. What's the next pasuk? Vaydaber Paro el Yosef. You see the difference? Originally, Paro wouldn't talk to Yosef. So just points this out. Paro's not talking to Yosef. Yosef is a slave. Now, he's a very talented slave. He's great with this interpretation business. Paro, the high and mighty, will speak to his dudes, and his dudes will speak to Yosef. So he says, at Yosef, I heard you're Mr. Dream Interpreter. You can literally, tishma chalom l'toraso. You hear the dream, you can interpret it immediately. Yosef denies personal advantage. The king of Egypt just pulled you out of the jail cell and is giving you the opportunity of a lifetime and says, I heard about you that you can interpret any dream in the entire lexicon. And Yosef goes, no, it's not me. It's not me. Are you kidding me? It's not you? Like, do you know kind of, Willy Wonka just handed you the golden ticket and you're like, nah, I'll have the bubble gum. Like, what are you talking about? But Pharaoh hears this, and then it was chocolate. It was the guy ever it doesn't matter. And then don't do that. and then all of a sudden now, Pharaoh speaks to Yosef. He's very impressed by Yosef now because he shuns the personal advantage and goes with God. And Yosef pulls this trick twice. Hu adavar asher amarti al Paro. That's the thing that I said to Paro. I mean, that's the thing. He does it twice. He does it by the brothers also. Hu adavar, that's what I said, you're meraglim. What do you mean that's what I said? It's a very, very strong point when you can do this in a business negotiation. I made a point to you. Originally, before you said anything, I said, God is saying something to you. Then you told me the dream. Then I started telling you the dream. I said, yeah, that's what I meant when I said God is saying this to you. Meaning the further we get into it, the more you see that what I told you originally was true. I'm not saying I said one thing, then I'll say another thing, then I'll say a third thing. No. It's one thing. It's one thing. From beginning to end, one continuum, and it's gorgeous. So Paro was very impressed with Yosef. Very, very impressed with Yosef. He's obviously the Navim V'chacham, which is why he takes off, he makes him the Mishnah Melech, he gives him a title. Why does he give him a title? What's he doing? Saying this guy has to mobilize the entirety of the country. Everyone's going to have to get behind him. Now do you understand the crazy medrash that says that Yosef tells everyone they have to get snippety-snipped if they want food? You know that medrash. Come on, you know that medrash. The medrash says he tells everyone they have to get a circumcision. What kind of a crazy thing is that for him to say? Why would he do something like that? And he moves everybody around in all the cities. Why does he move everybody around in all the cities? And why doesn't he open up the food to begin with? The answer is because we're either all in this together or we're not. This is not a government initiative for handouts to the poor. That's not what this is. He won't open up the food until the rich don't have any food left. He won't open the doors. You see, but you have people clamoring at the door that they don't have any food. That's not the point. Either we're together or we're not. If we're not together, I'm not opening it. That's why he does it. And it works. So he gets a title, and he gets the Revid and the Mishnah Lamelech. It's actually so ironic when you look at the difference between what he gets and what Yehuda gets. Yehuda gives his ring and his shawl and his staff, and he gives it as collateral to the woman of ill repute. Whereas Yosef is getting these articles of clothing from Paro to be the Mishnah Lamelech. Because as we know, just to go back to reference what we said by the Dudaim in Parshas Vayetze, because Rachel trades with Leah, she says, listen, I can't have kingship, but at least give me from your Dudaim, give me from your Davids, give me from your kingships. So Rachel gets 2 kingships from Leah, albeit temporarily, and this is the first one. This is the first one of the kingships. So as we know, in his second dream, he says, the sun and the moon and 11 stars are bowing to me. And his father says, really? I and your mom and your brothers are going to bow to you? The brothers, Mela, are going to bow to you, but I'm going to bow to you? And the answer is, yes, absolutely. Because in Parshas Vayechi, it says that Yaakov says to Yosef, listen, do me a favor. I want to live over there. And he says, fine, I will. And his father bows to him. And Rashi says, Tala be'idne sagidle. Because the fox gets 1 day a year where he gets to play king. So the rest of the year you bow to the lion. Once a year you bow to the fox. Tala be'idne sagidle. Today is Yosef's turn. He's the temporary king, which goes all the way back again to the Duda'i B'ni. He gets this in-between kingship. Okay.
What about his mom bowing, though?
Oh, baby, what about his mom bowing? What a great question. Okay, so the Medrash says that this is how you know that Kashem Sheyev Shalabar below Tevin, Kach Yev Shalachalom below Devarim B'Telem. That just like you see, there's no such thing as wheat without chaff, so too there's no Chalom without Devarim B'Telem. Devarim B'Telem was that obviously Rachel never bowed to Yosef because she was long dead by the time that this all happened. But you understand when you get a prophetic dream like that, where you just say that every single word in the dream is completely perfect, and somebody all of a sudden one thing doesn't make any sense. Come on, that's ridiculous. Why is that the Devarim B'Telem? Oh, that's Mamash a Yoni question. I love it. Oh, you're awesome. So Pshat's like this. That's not Devarim B'Telem because she did bow to him. No, you don't believe me? Vani bevoi mi padon meisalai Rachel beretz Canaan baderech. So he starts telling him the same vision after he bows to him. He now starts telling him that the reason he's going to get the bracha of the Bnei Yosef is b'schus his mom. So his mom bows to him. Even though what are you talking about? His mom was long dead. She didn't really bow to him. That's true. She didn't really bow to him, but she's the moon, right? You know the difference between the sun and the moon? The moon doesn't really have any light. It just reflects the other light. So the one who's really doing it is Yaakov, not Rachel, but she's the moon. So she does bow to him. So it's Dvarim B'Telem, but it's not. Yeah. So.
I thought you said last time it was because
Billa.
Billa.
Yeah, because I wasn't going to go deep with you. Will you pass the Glenlivet, please? Thank you. So, we have to pace ourselves, Mike. We have to pace ourselves. Okay, all right. So now we understand why he gives him a title, because he's making him into a demus. He's literally making him into a demus of the entire country of Egypt, and it works. It says Bano Sa'adu Alei Shor. They would climb the walls to see him. This like unbelievable guy. Okay, now who does he give him? Vayitein lo es osnas bas potifera kohen on liisha. This is one of my favorite Targum Yonasans on the parsha. Such a beautiful parsha. So it says like this. It says, who's Osnas? Osnas is Osnas bas Dina deleidas l'Shchem. She is the daughter of Dina from the rape of Shechem. I ask you a question. Meichitesi. How do you know that? How does the Targum Yonasan know that Osnas is the daughter of Dina with Shechem? And the answer is her name. Anusas! It means the product of rape. That's how he knows. Because Osnas bas Potifera Kohen on. That's how he knows. So he ends up marrying the daughter of Dina. Now let's take a time machine just for a moment back.
Why is it bas Potifera?
Because she's I'll get there in 1 second. It's so good. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's so good.
Why would you name your daughter the product of rape?
Well, yeah. So in the Torah, the names that you have are not necessarily the names that you're named, right? It's just the way that the Torah knows you. Yeah. Right. That one was, oh boy, yeah.
It's a little more subtle.
Is it though? I don't know. I think that Me'av is worse, in fact. Right? Ben Ami is better. Ben Ami is better than Moav, and Moav is for sure better. Like, so Osnas is not like, I'll tell you, you know how you know that it's not bad? I'll tell you how you know it's not bad.
But by the way, I'll tell you one thing,
Yeah.
based on what you said.
Yeah.
That's why Mashiach came from the one that was more,
Or what?
help me with the word.
I don't know what you mean.
I mean, like Moab from my father, and the other.
Oh, the one that was more explicit.
No, less explicit, more.
But Rus was from Moav.
So maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
Rus is from Moab.
So that's the one that's not as.
No, she's more explicit. Moav is more explicit. Yeah. Right? I mean, amen. Can't argue. He's right. So now let's go back for a moment. Okay. So the question again was, how does the Targum Yonasan know that Osnas bas Potifera Kohen on is the daughter of Dina from the rape of Shechem? And the answer is because it's in her name. Because the word Osnas, if you just do this with the nun and the samach, you get Anusas, which means product of rape. Now if we take yeah, there's a medrash like that. Yesh kazeh medrash. It's like Orphan Annie. It's the Orphan Annie.
Why is it called bas
Yeah.
Potifera?
Oh, so let's go back now for a moment. Let's go back now for a moment to Parshas Vayetze, because we said in Parshas Vayetze we mentioned why Dinah gets dinged for being hidden from Esav, and we said, well, because Dinah was switched in utero with Yosef, and therefore she's the female Yosef. Okay, well, if she's the female Yosef, so she gets taken by a pagan named Shechem in the city of Shechem, and she gets pregnant and she has a child. And what do the brothers want to do with this child? Kill it. They want to kill this child, the daughter of Dinah, but instead they compromise. Let's send it away to Egypt. And they send the child of the rape away to Egypt, and she ends up being adopted by Potifera Kohen on, and ends up marrying Yosef, who is her uncle, who is essentially the male version of her mother, who was also sold by the same 10 people down to Egypt because they can't stand him, because when they look at him, they see an Egyptian. Now, not only do they see an Egyptian, but there are only 2 people in the whole Torah that are called Safun. There are only 2. One is Yosef, because it says that Pharaoh calls him Saftas Paneach, and who's the other one? Who's the other one in the Torah who's Safun? There's only one. There's only one! V'lo yachlod hatspino. Who's that by? Vatitzbineu. Who's Vatitzbineu Shoshay Yerachim? Moshe! Moshe is also Vatitzbino. What do they both have in common? They're Egyptians! both Moshe and Yosef are indistinguishable from Egyptians. So it's Ish Mitzri Silanu Miyada Ro'im. When the daughters of Yisro see Moshe, they say he's an Egyptian man. And the same thing by Yosef. The brothers come to Yosef, Ehem lo ikiruhu. They don't see him, he's Egypto. They literally mamish see an Egyptian. That's what. Yeah, but not to his brothers. His brothers see him as an Ish Mitzri. Right? They don't see him as an Ivri. What's that? Chamor's the dad. Chamor was the dad. Okay, good. So now we understand a little bit about what the dreams mean, and why the dreams are the dreams, and why Yosef interpreted them the way that they interpreted them, and why he got Asnas. And let's just say one more thing about, because I forgot to tell you this, about V'haya ha'ochel afi kadon la'aretz. Unbelievable. So Pasuk says that the people run out of food, and they come to Pharaoh, and they complain to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh says, "What do you want from me? L'chu el Yosef. Go to Yosef." Say, well, wait a minute. Didn't you know that we're gonna have 7 years of this stuff? Where you been for 7 years? So says the Rishonim. No. They all saved food. What happened to their food? It rotted. Their food rotted. Okay, but that's not fair. That's when you start playing the Deus Machina games. You're playing the God game. So it's okay, so Yosef's food doesn't rot and their food rots. That's not fair. Why does their food rot and why does his food not rot? Again, if you don't want to play the religion game. Why does Yosef's food not rot? It tells you why. It tells you in the pasuk, because it says that they put with the food, they packed it in with the dirt where it was grown, which means that it's packed in nutrient-rich soil from the 7 good years. Everyone else took the food and they put it in a cooler, and it all rotted because the dust, everything turned to the dust bowl. It was grapes of wrath. But Yosef packed the food inside the excellent soil. So I ask you, how does he know how to do that? And the answer is Vater ena ba'acho, because they're eating in the swamp, which means that they're eating mamish from Mitzrayim. So he knows that you have to keep the food inside the swamp. That's how he knows. Now that's one possibility. The other possibility is he knows it from the dream. It's in the dream. Remember, every single word in the dream is bedafka. So it's there to tell you another insight that you would not have otherwise known. So now there's one other possibility. Another possibility that perhaps you could say is that he's not the only one that knows this trick. Maybe his family knows this trick too. Because it says that Yaakov says to his children, Vayar Yaakov ki yeshever b'Mitzrayim. Yaakov sees there's food in Egypt. Vayomer, and he says to his kids, Lama tisra'u. Why are you showing everyone that you still have food? So I don't understand. How come they still have food? The answer is because it's possible that the family knows this little agricultural secret, and therefore, right, it's possible that also he knows that too. So I don't know. It may be for that too. But that's when he says it's a double meaning of when he says V'hayaha ochel pikadon la'aretz. The food will be a pikadon to the land. Pikadon means collateral, as in the land is collateralizing the food. The earth is literally maintaining the food as arvanut. Ah, beautiful. Okay, so if that's clear, I'd like to tell you one more. Clear? Savava.
Why are there so many reminiscences to Purim in this batch between the
Why not? Why not? It's great to have Ramazim.
Is there anyone that talks about that?
All those Ramazim are the Ramazim that you're speaking about. So, there's a very, very strange conversation that happens between Yosef and his brothers. So brothers show up, and they bow down to him. And Vayisnaker aleim vaydaber itam kashos, and he says to them, Me'ayin basem, and they say, Be'eretz Canaan lishpor ochel. We came from Canaan to get food. And he goes, No, you're spies. No, we're not. We're just spies. We're not spies. We came for food. What are you talking about? No, it's like I said, you're spies. No, we swear to God, we're not spies. We're brothers. Like I said, you're spies. That's the conversation in the Torah. You're spies. Nuh-uh, yaha, nuh-uh, yaha, nuh-uh, yaha. Well, here's how we'll know. Bring your little brother here. That doesn't prove we're not spies. Maybe we are spies and we're brothers, and our little brother is also a spy because CIA runs in our family. So why would that prove anything anyway? Second of all, what kind of a ridiculous assertion is that you're spies? What is it? You're frogs. What are you doing here? We came to get food. Nuh-uh, you're frogs. No, we're not frogs. We came to get food. Why spies? It had to make sense. The taina has to make sense. Otherwise, what is he saying? When he keeps going back and forth with them, it has to be that he's saying something intelligent each time. It's reasonable what he's saying to them.
But the 10 separate entrances.
Oh, right. So let's see what happens. So look at this.
So you know they're part of the Canaan Intelligence Agency.
The Canaan Intelligence Agency, the CIA. Very good. Okay. So Pasuk says like this. V'Yosef hu ashalit ala aretz, hu amashpir l'chol am haaretz, v'yavo achei Yosef, v'yishtachavu lo apayim arza. And Yosef is the decider on the land. He is the food doler to all the people. And Yosef's brothers came and bowed down to him. You ever wonder why the pasuk has to say both things? Yosef hu ashalit ala aretz, hu amashpir l'chol am haaretz. Yosef is the decisor. He's the food doler. I mean, surely one would suffice, right? So crazy Targum Yonasan. Targum Yonasan is like this. The Yosef who have a shalit al ara. Yosef was in charge of the land. V'yeda de'achai alin lemizbun. And he knows that his brothers are going to have to come and buy. Mane neturin betare karta. So he hired notaries in the cities. Lemichtav kol de'alo b'yom ahu shmei v'shem avoi. So that they would have impeccable records that everyone who would come would say their name and their dad's name. And he was the one who was selling food to everybody. Yosef, and the brothers of Yosef came. And they looked in the red light district, and in the inns, and in the theaters. And they didn't find him. And they came to his house. And they bowed down to the floor. Can I ask you a question? Where does Targum Yonasan see in the pasuk that Yosef hired notaries and that Yosef's brothers went to the red light district to look for him? How does he know that? He made it up. So the answer is,
Went to the red light district.
yeah, he says, the asu ache Yosef, and the brothers of Yosef came, uvelashu, and they, belashu, mishu po medaber ivrit? How do you say detective? Yafeh. Detective is a balash. Balashu means they detected. They Sherlock Holmes, right?
They knew they sold them to Egypt, so they were checking.
Right. So they come to the Stratiasa and the Fatliasa and the Bate Pundakta. I mean, they're looking for him in all the wrong places. Okay, that's what they're looking for him. Yeah, yeah. How does he know that? So first of all, he knows that because the pasuk says, "Yosef hu ashalit ala haaretz hu amashpir l'chol am haaretz." There's a difference between a shalit and a mashpir. A shalit means a decider. A mashpir is a supporter. The decider is the one. Why does it have to say he's a decider? The decider is not the guy who doles out. It means that he used his role as decider to implement something. To implement what? Notaries, records, impeccable records. We're going to know how often you came and how many kilos of food you took and how many souls live in your house and how much money you paid for said food. But once I'm doing that, you know what else I'm going to know? I'm going to know when I see Ruvain Amramson and Yisachar Amramson, I know they're brothers. I know they're brothers. So what happens? You come in through 10 different gates. Why'd you come through 10 different gates? Because you're looking for Yosef. Because you're looking for Yosef. But you're not going to say that. You're not going to say that. Well, why aren't you going to say that? Very simple. Very simple. Because to say that you're looking for Yosef means you sold him. Why? Because everybody thinks he's dead. And you don't look for dead people. So if you're looking for Yosef, it's because you know he's not dead. And do you know something I don't know? You ever wonder, I'll say it again, and I'll say it slow. Why, if they're all of a sudden looking for Yosef, because it says, Vayerdu ache Yosef asara, lishbar bar mi Mitzrayim, Vayerdu ache Yosef, it shouldn't say Vayerdu ache Yosef, it should say Vayerdu b'nei Yaakov. So what's Vayerdu ache Yosef? So Zok the Gemara, Vayerdu ache Yosef, is they came to buy him back. So I ask you, all of a sudden that they're starving, now they feel bad about selling their little brother as a slave to Egypt, now they're going to buy him back? The answer is no, they would have loved to have bought him back for the last 2 decades, but they can't. Why not? Because we can't go on an expedition to Egypt to look for our brother who's supposedly dead. So they can't go, but now we have a golden opportunity because we are going down to Egypt. So we fill up our packs with money because we're going to look for our little brother and we're going to find him, we're going to bring him home. So they come in through 10 different entrances and now they're standing together. But 1 second, I have you at 10 different flights and now you're standing together. You're spies. So Yosef says to them, Meraglim atem! You're spies. And they go, no, we're not spies, we're brothers. What? What do you mean we're not spies, we're brothers? They're explaining why they went through 10 different things. They say, no, Your Honor, you don't understand. There's a perfectly innocent explanation for this. We're looking for our brother because we're all the sons of one man in Canaan, and one of them is home with dad, and the other one is gone, and we came here to look for him. Oh, you came to look for him. Really? Interesting, came to look for him. What if they won't sell him back to you? Say, no problem, money's not an object. Whatever it is, we'll pay for it. Say, what if they won't sell it any money? Well, then we come to kill or be killed. Oh, so you were strategizing. Like I said, you're spies. Now notice what he says to them, because now you'll understand how the Targum Yonasan knows what he knows. Why would they look for him in the red light districts? Because he was sold as a sex slave, as we know from last week's Parsha, where it says, Vayiknehu Potifar Sris Paro Sarat Tabachim, and we explained that the pasuk should have said, Vayikna Oso. What do you mean, Vayiknehu? Vayiknehu doesn't mean that he bought him. It means he bought him. He's not bought for a job. He is the job. His brothers know Yosef. What kind of a slave is Yosef going to be? We know exactly where to look for him, in Hollywood. So they go to the Weinstein Corporation, and when it wasn't the Weinstein Corporation, they went to the Epstein Corporation. And when they found the Epstein Corporation was clicked down, they went to the Clinton Foundation. And when they didn't find him over there, right, so, and they go one after the other, you're going to have to edit that, and when they go, I didn't commit suicide. And when...
The camera's gonna cut out right before.
So Memela, of course they know where to look for him. Of course they know where to look for him. They look for him exactly where he's going to be. And they don't find him there. And they go right to his house and bow down to him on the floor. So now how does the Targum Yonasan know that in the pasuk? I understand that it's intuitive. Okay, great. So Targum Yonasan is a genius. He understands it's intuitive. But how does he see it in the pasuk? Listen to the words of Yosef one more time. It's gorgeous. He says, Meraglim atem l'roses ervas haaretz basem. Why do I have receipts in you from all of the prostitutes in town? You pretend you came through 10 different things because you're looking for a brother. Well, how come I keep finding you at the Spearmint Rhino? What's up with that? Now, what are you going to tell me? What are you going to tell me? You're going to tell me, well, that's obviously where my brother would be. Why would your brother be there? Why do you think that your brother would be there? They can't say why! They can't say why! Because to say why would be to admit to him that they sold their brother. And the one thing that they'll never do, on pain of death at any cost, is admit what they did to anyone outside of their own little cadre who knows their awful, evil shame. So they get pinned by the man. So the man says, oh, no problem. No problem.
He was sold. Why did they say they sold him? We heard he was sold as a slave.
We heard he was sold as a slave 20 years ago.
The story is
Where you been? It's a long journey, right? Where you been? Here are these 10 guys. They're loaded. They're rich. Yeah. Yeah. No, because they killed him. It can't be true. We made sure it wasn't. That's also very good. So let's say it like this. They sold him. Isn't that amazing? Right, so what's literally the words that Shimon says to Levi? Says, l'chu v'nargeu v'nashlicheu ba'achar baros ve'omar chayara achalasu v'nireh ma yihiu chalomosav. Let's see what will become of his dreams. Meaning, we'll make sure that nothing ever becomes of his dreams. So it doesn't occur to them for 1 minute. I know, that's the pshat when it says, Vayaker Yosef esachav vehem lo hikiru. They're mamish blind. It doesn't occur to them for 1 second.
Just like Rabbi Sprung said about the Sarah and the Sarah Mashka, they couldn't interpret their own dreams. The brothers couldn't see past their own.
Not only, they have already decided what his dreams meant. They have already decided what his dreams meant, and it's so gorgeous because you see both pieces in the pasuk. So it said last week in Parshas Vayeshev, when it says, "Hinei anachnu ma'amim alumim b'soch hasadeh, v'hinei kama lo masi v'gam nitzava, v'hinei tisuvena al mosechem v'tishnachavena al masi," that we're all sitting there bundling the bundles, and your bundles get up and surround my bundle, and your bundles start bowing down to my bundle. And they say to him, oh, really? Are you going to be king over us, or are you going to be a dictator over us? And we said that the Rishonim explained what's the difference between a melech and a moshel. The difference is that a melech ain't melech below am. If the people don't want you as a king, you're not a king. So Muammar Gaddafi was not the king of Libya, he was the dictator of Libya. To be a king, it has to be that the people actually want you to be the king. Whereas a moshel, Stalin can be a moshel. Stalin's mamash a moshel. So they say, which one are you going to be? Are you going to be the melech on us, or are you going to be the moshel on us? And I'll tell you what the answer is. Yes. Yosef hu shalit ala aretz, hu mashbir lechol ha'aretz. He's both. He's the melech and the moshel. And you come to him and you bow down to him, but you can't see what you've already defined. You know that it's true, you've known it always, and you can't see it right in front of your face, because it's not possible that your little turd of a brother could possibly be the guy that you see right in front of you, who, by the way, looks exactly like your father. He looks exactly like your father. Right? Yeah, right, exactly, right, mamish. So what does that mean? It's not the pshat that they didn't recognize him because they couldn't recognize him. They didn't recognize him because you never see what you're not looking at. So it can't be.
Why do they want to find him?
They feel bad. They want to buy him back and redeem him. They want to bring him back. No, I'm saying they wanted to bring him back before then.
Where does it say in the Torah that they felt bad?
Vayirdu achei Yosef asara. That's how the pasuk. That's how they know. Because the pasuk shouldn't have said Vayirdu achei Yosef. It should have said Vayirdu b'nei Yaakov, which it said in the previous pasuk. So when it says Vayirdu achei Yosef asara, you see that they're coming down as brothers of Yosef. Meaning what? Meaning that they're coming to redeem him. So Rashi says the difference is, why is it Vayirdu achei Yosef asara lishbor bar mi Mitzrayim? Because Legabe, how they felt about him, the hatred and the love for him was not the same. Because Reuven loved him this much, hated him that much, Yisachar that much, Zvulun that much, Dan that much. But when it came to getting food, they were all exactly on the very, very same page when it came to getting food, but not so much how they felt about Yosef. So,
consider him the king of Egypt because you're still Pharaoh is above him.
Correct. So he's the mashbir. So apischa yisha kol ami, you're going to take care of everyone. That's a din in Malchus. In terms of his deciding things against everyone's will, that's the huwa shalit al haaretz. The word shalit is actually perfect. In modern Hebrew, a shalit is a television controller, because that's what shalit means. Shilton. It means deciding. He's the decisor on absolutely everything, and he's also the melech. Why is he the melech? Because he's the mashbir. Because apicha yisha kol ami. But now just one more. It's very funny. It's very funny what you did there. I see what you did there. So now,
Do the big recap.
I'll do the big recap in 1 second. I just want to say one more thing because I think it was very, very beautiful. So, pasuk says, "Vayiskor Yosef es hachalamos asher chalam lahem," and Yosef remembered the dreams that he dreamt for them. And Rashi says, "Kamo aleihem," about them. No. Vayiskor Yosef es hachalamos asher chalam lahem. I had these dreams for you. For you. My dream was about how I'm going to take care of your family. I'm going to be in the middle, and you guys are all going to make piles and piles of money, and your piles are going to be bowing down to my pile. And they took that as, bro, I dreamt this for your benefit. But you decided that it was nefarious. You decided that I'm an evil turd Machiavellian who wants to just rule and lord over you. So you sold me down to Egypt, and you made the whole thing happen anyway. But that means that if not for the fact that the brothers sold him that way, it would have happened in a different way, which would have been obviously much more beautiful and much less problematic, yeah. In the very beginning, at this point, they already ran out, right? They ran out of food. Correct. The first time, they still had a little food yet. According to that Pshat and Lama Tisra. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, still a little left. So now let's do a recap on the second piece. The brothers come down looking for Yosef, and they come through 10 different entrances. Why are they coming through 10 different entrances? Because they're looking for him. Now, where are they looking for him? They're looking for him in the places where he would intuitively be, i.e. the red light district. So that's how the Targum Yonasan knows that they look for him in the Batei Astrasia and the Pundaksa and the Stratatya, right? They look for him in all the places that he absolutely shouldn't be. So when they come up in front of Yosef and Yosef says, hey, you guys are spies, he's not throwing out some kind of silly, unreasonable accusation. He's saying, you came in through 10 different gates and you're standing together, you're spies. That's the definition of spies. And they say, no, it's not like that, we're brothers. We're standing together because we're brothers. He goes, really, you're brothers? If you're brothers, why'd you take 10 different flights? If you're brothers, you should have come together. And they say, no, we came because we're looking for our other brother who's not here. Oh, really? Where were you looking? Lero says, Ervasa Aretz Basem. The nakedness of the land you came to see. Because I have the receipts right here. Because Yosef Hu Shalit al Aretz Hu Mashpil Cholam Aretz, he has notaries taking records of everybody's credit card receipts. So he knows exactly what you bought. He knows exactly what you bought. So then they say to him, no, we came to buy him back. He goes, really? What if they ask you for a lot of money? They say, it's no problem. We have all the money in the world. He says, what if they won't give you the money? They say, no problem. Kill or be killed. He goes, oh, so you were scoping out the exits. So it's like I said, you are spies. But here's how we'll know. Here's how we'll know.
If they had receipts in the red light district, they weren't just looking.
That's the point. They weren't just looking, right? But they were. So he calls them right out on that. He calls them right out. So now, but you understand, it's gorgeous because they're there because we have to go there. We have to go there because that's where we're looking for Yosef. Yosef's not there. You guys stayed a little bit too long looking for me, methinks. So now, he says to them, it's a very reasonable solution. He says, no problem. I'll keep one and bring the little one. And then we'll know. Because I'll ask questions about your childhood. And since Shimon is here in prison, you won't be able to do you won't be able to get your answers straight. And I'll know whether or not you were telling me the truth from the get-go or not. Now, why is Yosef willing to let them go? Because they have to come back anyway. Yosef has the whole world on a leash. It doesn't matter, you're not going far because you want a bagel. So I know you'll be back in a month. That's not a problem. So why does he have to keep one? He has to keep one because otherwise they can get all their answers straight. So he takes Shimon, sends the rest home. They say, why does he take Shimon? Medrash says exactly why he takes Shimon. Because if you leave Shimon and Levi, they'll kill you. So you have to take Shimon. But it's not even enough to take Shimon. It's not even enough to take Shimon. It says, oh my gosh, wow. So it says, ha'echad, the one finds the money in his pack. Who's the one? Says the Medrash, Levi. What do you mean why you call him the one? Because he's the one of a pair. Because the one got taken away, and here's the other one. Which means that he has to throw off Shimon and Levi. Because if you don't throw off Shimon and Levi, he knows they're going to kill him. They're going to kill him. So he makes sure they're very, very off balance. And that, in a nutshell, is Parshas Miketz.